Singapore Deputy Prime Minister Gan Yong says the success of the Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone must be driven by the private sector. He says the private sector is key to ensuring the SEZ remains dynamic and resilient to changing demands. CNA's Afifah Ariffin sat down with Mr Gan, who is also Trade and Industry Minister, to discuss the strategic vision behind the SEZ. He talks about its potential to enhance connectivity, attract investments, and deepen economic integration in the region.
The SEZ has been hailed as a potential game changer, but what does this mean for Singapore's economy?
I think it will, in the long term, be positive for Singapore economy because Singapore, as you know, we have always constraints on resources. And yet at the same time, over the causeway in Malaysia, in Johor particularly, there is abundant supply of resources. So this complementarity will help both Johor economy to grow, but at the same time allow Singapore economy to have access to tap on the resources over the other side. So I think this way it's a plus for both of us. So the idea of 1 + 1 must be equal than more than 2. So I think that's how we will benefit Singapore companies. But of course, our first starting point really in this SEZ is to see how we can strengthen the connectivity between Johor and Singapore. And therefore, one of the criteria, one of the priorities that we are focusing on is really how do we encourage the flow of goods, the flow of people, and the flow of investments. And this way, we will then encourage both economies to grow. And this investment, we hope that we will facilitate the rules and regulations on investment so that it will be easier for Singapore companies to invest in Johor in the Special Economic Zone. This way, I think both economies will benefit.
How does Singapore plan to do that? Because Malaysia has already introduced the tax incentives, infrastructure funding. So what is Singapore going to do to attract more Singapore-based companies to go over and invest?
We have been engaging and reaching out to our businesses through the various trade associations, through Singapore Business Federation, to discuss with these companies, as well as to talk to a few companies that have been operating in Johor to ask them, what do you really need for you to continue to operate in Johor, and what will you need to make you invest more in Johor to make your operation even better. So I think this way we get feedback and get ideas from the companies, because collaboration in the Special Economic Zone really have to be driven by the private sector, because this is about the economic zone. So I think the economy, the private sector have to drive the ideas, the features of this Special Economic Zone. And that's why we have been engaging the private sector quite extensively. And this SEZ is also a evolving concept. It's a project that's growing and expanding, and we hope to continue to tap on the feedback from the private sector to decide how we should move forward in developing this SEZ.
There are big goals for this SEZ, 50 projects in 5 years, 100 in 10 years. What is your vision for this zone in the next few decades? Looking at the evolving global landscape, how do we ensure resilience for this SEZ?
I think the key really is we have to go for win-win outcome. It's not you win, I lose, or I win, you lose. I think this will not be sustainable in the long term. So we need to change the mindset that this SEZ can be a win-win proposition. If companies look at it carefully, plan their expansion carefully, and tap on the complementarity between the two economies, and take advantage of the relative strengths of the two, I think this will allow the project to continue.
With Malaysia as ASEAN chair this year, how do you see the SEZ influencing even deeper economic integration within the region?
I think regional integration has always been a key focus of ASEAN economic ministers' discussion. With the Malaysian being the chair of ASEAN this year, I think it will give additional impetus for this regional cooperation. And there are many areas that we can work together within ASEAN, as well as between Johor and Singapore through this SEZ. One area really is a digital economy. I think ASEAN, as you know, we have been negotiating on the digital economy framework agreement. This will set the basic rules of digital trade, digital economy, and how to make sure that the systems are interoperable. Well, all of us have different systems because each of us is an individual country member of ASEAN. So we have our own systems, but we need to make sure that the systems are interoperable. And this is very important for connectivity. And the other area that we are also focusing on within ASEAN is sustainability, which is an important topic for not only for Malaysia, Singapore, but also for the rest of the world. And in sustainability, we already developed a framework, a strategy for carbon neutrality within ASEAN. And under this framework, we look at areas where we can work with one another to facilitate the transition to a lower carbon future.